Team, what is up? Thank you so much for joining us this week. Head across to thebaldchefau.com and check out Andrew's spices that he has available for wild game meats. They are absolutely incredible, and you can get them delivered to your doorstep so you can trial them out with your meat that you guys have been hunting. Happy hunting for the rest of the week, team. If you're getting out, I am very envious, but wishing you a heap of luck. I do have myself a brand new baby, so thank you for those who have been following along. We had a little daughter, Madeline Valerie Turner, so thank you guys for your support so far with that one. She's absolutely incredible. She's an absolute gem, and being a father absolutely rocks. So here we are. This is this week's episode. Happy cooking of your wild game meats.
Hey there, and welcome to Becoming a Bowhunter. I'm your host, Maddie, and join me and our guests as we take the quality of meat back into our own hands. Searching the wild for free-ranged animals to harvest as ethically as we can. I interview a variety of specialists from the bow hunting community to help fast-track your journey as a bow hunter. So sit back, relax, and enjoy this chinwag on one of your favorite topics in the world, bow hunting. All right, bow hunters, welcome back to Becoming a Bow Hunter. I'm Matthias Turner, joined today by Andrew Giuliano. If you're following him on Instagram, it's at baldchefau. Dude, I'm really excited to have you on. I'm pumped to talk about some cooking and making wild game taste delicious. I think one of the biggest problems that hunters find, or that people find in general, is that they've often just taken a slab of whatever they've killed and chucked it straight on the barbecue like they would a steak, and then tried to eat it and said, no, that's gross. Like, oh, yuck, I can't do that. The taste is just too wrong. I can't do that. I can't deal with it. So therefore the animal just goes to waste and they just become hunters and not foragers for food at all. So what I'd really love to dive into today is a lot around just how we can make wild game taste better. But I want to start it, Andrew, by asking, what's your background, dude? Like, how do you kind of come into this realm of eating from the land?
Yeah, well, I've been, so my background is Greek Cypriot. So my dad was born overseas. So he came here, I think, when he was 12. So he's like pretty cultured. And then my mum, she was born here, but then my grandparents, her parents were born overseas, but they also live here. And I sort of like, they had 5 acres not far from my house. So I sort of grew up there.
Yeah.
So it was like, so I was hunting from pretty young, like not really with a gun, just sort of tagging along. And yeah, but it was a lot of field shooting. So it was like rabbit, hare, duck, quail, because that's what they used to shoot back home, you know? So that was like we used to eat like game probably like probably twice a week.
Yeah.
Twice a week, yeah, either duck or hare or rabbit. Rabbit was very common, like in our household. Like I don't think we ever not had rabbit in the fridge. So it was like, we were like pretty exposed to it young. But yeah, so I don't know, like, and even living on those 5 acres, like it was like a little mini, I don't know, it was like a little mini farm. Like we had chickens, and my grandparents had chickens, rabbits. So it was there was also farmed animals at the farm. Like that's not so much hunting, but the dishes sort of align, you know, like we still used to cook the rabbit the same and the chickens sort of the same as like the hare and stuff like that, you know?
Yeah, that's cool. And so it's kind of been passed down generations of, hey, this is food that we can eat and this is food that we can take and you can make it taste delicious by doing a few things.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, 100%.
It's definitely, I think it's kind of my passion for food and my passion for cooking has actually come down from my dad's side as well. So my dad is a keen cook. He's actually an incredible cook, and I love going to his house every time I do. He cooks you up an awesome feast.
That's cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
What does he specialize in?
Man, he's really good at doing like curries. It's something he's always really enjoyed, is doing different types of curries, and he'll just always kind of experiment with it. And I don't know, from an unexperienced person, you'd say, how many ways can you do a curry? And then you go to see someone that really loves cooking, and he just does something a little bit different every single time. It just tastes absolutely incredible. But I mean, he's built his own little like clay pizza cooker in his backyard, like a little pizza oven. And so he'll do things like roast and that, and it's just absolutely incredible. Like it's to die for. It just melts in your mouth.
That's cool, yeah. And what's his background? Is it what's your background?
Mate, we're just like, I mean, if you go back our heritage, we English, German, a little bit of, I've got 1% Asian, not that you would notice. And there's a little bit of Denmark and Sweden in this as well. So we're kind of like a mixed barrel, really, dude. So it's just cool.
So where did his like passion for cooking stem
Man,
from?
I'm pretty sure it comes from his mum. Like they grew up on a farm. He grew up in the city, but they also had a farm, so you go out to the farm a fair bit. And I think it just came from.
That's a big thing. I think that's a massive thing, having that like outlet.
Yeah, just growing things from scratch, doing things from scratch.
Yeah, like as much you may not think when you're young that it's going to have any effect on you when you're older, but I think as you get older, like because you've been exposed to it that much, it's just like becomes not instinct, but it's just like, I don't know. Yeah, it becomes sort of instinct, and it's just like and it filters through your lifestyle as you get older, you know?
Yeah, so I mean, we've always had like veggies in the garden and stuff like that. And I remember so many times when I was younger, like taking a bite out of some silver beet or something like that, and being like, that's crunchy. That's not meant to be crunchy. And having a look, and there's like a snail on there because Dad didn't clean it properly. Like stuff like that.
That's cool, but yeah, that's cool. It's raw, you know. It's a bit of like it's not just doesn't come in a plastic bag from Coles, you know.
Yeah, exactly. Get a little bit of extra protein in. That's awesome. So, dude, I want to start off with what do you think are some of the miscuts or the best cuts that people commonly leave behind when they're hunting? Like a lot of the time, people will go straight for back straps and they might just grab front legs or back legs, and that would be it. What are some of the hidden cuts you reckon people are missing out on?
I reckon like the offal.
Yep.
So the heart, like the heart and the eye fillet, I think they should be the first two things, like to be, if you're gonna take something out of the animal, take them out. So first, because then you can cook them back at camp and they're like tender, guaranteed to be tender. So the eye fillet will be tenderized, and the heart like has a nice like sort of like, I don't know, texture to it, and there's not really that much. Yeah, there's not that much game or anything in it. So I think that those two are very important.
Yeah.
The shanks. I mean, the shanks do come with the back legs. So, but I think that for me, I think shanks are one of my favorite cuts to cook, like slow cook.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. Like when you slow cook it, just how the tendons kind of they become jelly, man. It's just delicious. Like
it's interesting. Yeah, it just falls apart. Like it really, really melts. Yeah, especially if they're like. If it's not even, they're just like a venison shank. If it's like a smaller deer, they just like really like melt. Literally, they melt. Yeah. Also, the brisket, like down in the chest area, like, I enjoy using that to make like stock.
Okay.
So like, say for example, after like I'll debone like the two back legs and cut sort of steaks out of them and that.
Yeah.
Then like I'll cut the bones in half with just like a butcher saw, so you can expose the marrow.
Yeah.
And then I'll drop them in like a stock pot with the brisket, so it's a little bit like there's a little bit of like fat on the chest area normally. And then I'll make like a faux stock or something, you know, and then I'll drink that throughout the week, just as like immunity booster or something, you know.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
And there's so much in that because it's literally an organic animal, like it's something you've just taken from the land that's not going to have any sort of, I guess, antibiotics or drugs or anything in mixed in with it. Like the only plastics or anything that's ever going to come in contact with is that's within the air that's blowing around in the land, which is not that much when we're out in the bush in Australia.
Exactly. Yeah, no, you're right. Yeah, that fat, like, is the fat on that brisket and that is like proper, like good. You know how you go to the shop and they say like grass fed. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's like proper. It's proper fat. Like you can eat that, and I don't think like, especially if you're like on a diet with low carbs and that fat as you go through.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
When it comes to the neck cut, I actually think it's one of the most like untouched ones. Like I like just getting the neck roast and doing it as a slow cook. I think it goes pretty much the same as shanks. Like it's incredible.
It is. Yeah. You're right. Because that you got that bone through the middle, and then there's meat around it, but not that much. So it doesn't. So it's just enough for it to melt. You know what I mean? Like it's not like a big cut of meat where it'll be dry. It doesn't. If you slow cook it properly with like enough liquid, that'll just pull apart, and it almost becomes like pulled pork or any pulled meat, that you'd get from the shop, it just like melts.
Yeah.
Especially you could have it with like rice or whatever. Really, like it's great.
Yeah, dude, that's incredible. And so, I mean, going back to things like the offal, like you talked about the heart, ones that I want to touch on is the kidney and the liver, mainly because there's things such as, like there's different nutrients that we can get from different foods. And kidney and liver are ones that are really great for getting a thing called riboflavin, which is something that's really good for providing you with B2 and B6, mainly B2. Now, when it comes to that, that's like one of the things that a lot of vegans or vegetarians mainly miss out on, and that's one of the things that they have to actually supplement is the different Bs.
Yeah, so, and they're very important vitamins as well. They're good for, they're very important vitamins.
Yeah, super important. So, I mean, realistically, if you were to be a vegetarian, your best choice would to maybe have like a little bit of offal here and there if you were going to eat anything, like just to keep your vitamins high. Like that would be a good way to do it. But talking about kidney and liver and heart, like what do you think some of the best ways are that we can, like really, this is where the nutrients are in the animal. Like, yes, you get protein from the rest of the meat, but this is the best part of the animal. If you talk to, I actually interviewed a First Nations guy from Canada a while ago on my other podcast, and he was talking about he grew up in a hunting lodge in Canada, literally just like with the natives, and their thing was they'd hunt like moose, and they would literally go and eat all the organs first, and then they'd hang the meat for the rest of the time and like keep it for the winter. That was their whole game plan.
So cool.
Yeah, dude, it was super cool to talk to him about it. But he's like, that's where the nutrients are. Like, that's all you needed to start with. The rest of the meat was just for getting us through winter, which is crazy. But when it comes to this, like, these are the things that have the best parts in them. So what are the best ways to cook it? Like, I think so many people think of it as awful. That's just freaking awful. How would you even eat that? But yeah, let's talk about that.
Yeah, so when I was younger, like my dad and that, they used to cook it. They used to just throw it all in the fry pan as I'd be cooking rabbit, so like a rabbit liver. And to be honest, I didn't like it. It became like, because it was like a little bit overcooked, and it became like a very floury texture. And it sort of scarred me a little bit, to be honest. So the past like 3 years, sort of, I'm getting back into it, and so I normally eat it like so. So say if the animal was shot in the morning, it'll be like our breakfast as when we come back. I'll cook up the liver for breakfast.
Yeah.
Now, if sometimes I'll leave it overnight just so I can marinate it a bit, but yeah, it's normally for breakfast. So I'll pull it out of the animal, and I make sure I get rid of it's a gallbladder, I think, that green like bubble thing. So I just like cut that off with a knife and make sure if that bursts, you pretty much ruin the liver. Yeah, so you don't want that. And then there's a thin like layer on the outside, and I also slice that off. And then I just cut it in strips, and I'll say, for example, I'm cooking it. I'll put it in like olive oil, and then red wine and some vinegar and salt.
Yeah.
And I'll mix it through, and I'll just let it sit for like, I don't know, half an hour while I'm cutting up onions and garlic, while I cut up all my veggies and that. And then I'll just like throw it in the wok. Okay. So I'll cook it in the wok with so I'll cook like my onions and then garlic and maybe some chives or whatever I've got really. Like out in the bush, I don't really have much. Always have onions and garlic, but like just sort of like any veggies, like really just like, chives. Chives are good. Yeah. Yeah. And then, and so I just throw it in there. And then sometimes, like if I'm feeling a little bit like, because that flavor I still struggle with the flavor. I'm not going to lie. I still struggle with it. I eat it because I know how good it is for me. Then I'll cook it up, and then I'll if I've got a fire going, I'll cook like halloumi, like halloumi cheese. Yeah, yeah. It's a bit crazy. Doesn't really sound like it matches, but anyway. So I'll warm up some bread, and then I'll put up like I'll put like the halloumi cheese cooked, and then a few slices of the liver, and then I'll put a bit of lemon on top, and I'll eat it like that. Do you know what I mean?
Awesome. Yeah. Yeah,
so it's like cheese, liver, and then you got like toasted bread on the fire. That's pretty. Like I think you're guaranteed to be safe eating it like that. And you're not safe, but like you will not get any game flavor or anything. Yeah, you won't be disgusted.
I mean, putting things like red wine onto it obviously is going to help mask the taste anyway. Like that start to give it extra flavors as it is.
It does. It does. If you have time, 100% I'd recommend to do it overnight. Yeah. So get a little bowl and put it in like red wine, vinegar, and a bit of salt and pepper, and just let it marinate overnight, and then cook it. But don't overcook it.
Yeah, okay.
That's a big thing, I reckon. If you overcook it, the texture changes, becomes like flour. A bit of like a floury taste. You know, it's not nice.
How would you know if you're overcooking it? Like if you've never cooked it before, what would be the things to look for?
So you see, so when you're cooking it you see like a little bit of, you know, when you as like sort of like when you're cooking a steak, like blood comes out on one side.
Yeah.
Yeah, you just turn it on the other side. Just turn it and just.
It's pretty much like trying to cook a medium rare steak, right?
Yeah, sort of like that. You don't want it to be too red though, but you just like sort of like press it with a fork, and you know when you want it to have like a little bit of like a little bit spongy. You know, you don't want it to be like stiff.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, you know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely. So, I mean, going back on things like lamb's fry, for instance, that was, I think it's liver they used to use for that. It might be.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so it's liver, onion, bacon, and then maybe like a little bit of corn flour or something to make it like a bit.
Yeah, sorry, that's another way I cook it. Sorry, yeah, I'll do it like that as well. You want to use like some bacon. That's what I did last time actually. Yeah. So you just like cook off some bacon, then you throw it in with the bacon. That also gives it a great taste. Yeah.
Yeah, it kind of really hides the flavor of it. It's
yeah,
a good way to
yeah.
mask it.
It's just especially if you're gonna feed a vegan liver, fuck. It's like I reckon that's probably one of the hardest offals to eat. It's a hardest cut to eat out of an animal.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, but yeah, if you cook it with bacon and you garnish it with like lemon and salt and that, I think you're pretty safe and it tastes awesome. It's a great breakfast, especially after you're doing like a long walk or something. If you're carrying the meat back, when you sit there and cooking all the offal, it's just a bit like it's like the first sign of respect for the animal. Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. And so, realistically, these foods are ones that you should probably eat first. They're not ones that you should be freezing.
No. Don't freeze them. Eat them first. They like nutritious and that, and also like they're guaranteed to be tender. You know, like the liver, the heart, kidney, are all guaranteed to be tender. Like they're not gonna be like tough or anything. You know what I mean? Like if you were just to cut a piece off the back leg and put on the barbecue, it'll be tough as.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Man, one of the most delicious cuts I've had is actually, this is from beef, is tongue. I've never tried it on deer yet. Like it's definitely something when I get my red finally, that's something I'm going to do is take his tongue and do it properly. Yeah. Have you ever played much with tongue?
No, I haven't. No, I've tried lamb tongue once, but I think the person that cooked it for me didn't.
They stuffed it.
Yeah. It was a little bit. It was very, very strong flavour.
I did a tongue not so long ago. You have to boil it first, and then you cut off all the skin, and then you recook the meat that's in there just on a fry pan, just to like caramelize it around the outside. And dude, it's like beef meets bacon. Like it's incredible.
Wow.
Like high fat content.
Do you cut it up? Did you cut it up like finely after you took the skin off, or just put the tongue back in the pan?
No, I'd cut it up finely, like not super fine, but just like little chunks. And so it acted like just little. It looks like spam, like
really
canned spam sort of stuff. Like it's so delicious. I'd definitely recommend it for all the listeners and for yourself, dude. I reckon you love it.
I'm gonna give it a crack. Yeah, I think I'm gonna give it a crack next time. Yeah.
Cool. So, I mean, offal, I think there's definitely so many ways to do it. And I think the biggest thing I'd like to get out there is that you should be eating your offal. Like, this is something, so many people are probably going to roll their eyes and be like, no, I don't want to do that. But I'd seriously, like, this is going to be some of the best things you can get from your wild game.
Yeah, I agree. Just, it might take a bit of effort, but it's not even that much of an effort, but you just do that extra step. Like, if you want to put it in a wrap or cook it with like halloumi, like I said, or bacon, it's 100% worth it, you know.
Yeah, I agree.
There's some cuts, and there's some in wild game where you have to put in a little bit more effort to get and it will taste just as good as any other meat. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you can't just get away with just throwing it in the pan and just like expecting it to taste awesome, because at the end of the day, it is wild. Like some animals as well are male. Like if you shoot a stag or like you can taste game. You can taste
rutting stag.
Big rutting stag. Like you have to work. It's a little bit of work behind it, but it still tastes like if you put that work in, you still get like the same results. You know.
It's I interviewed a guy from Hawaii, and what he'll do is catch all the boars, the big pigs over there, and cut off their balls, and then throw them in his backyard, and then keep them for another few years, and then shoot them. And he puts a little cut in the area so he knows which ones they are. And he says, like, if I ever see one of those, like, I get so excited because I know it's going to be the tastiest pig I've ever had, because you're getting rid of the testosterone from it.
Yeah. Actually, my friend done that the other day. We not wild boars. We bought some, and he got some at his farm, and he castrated them straight away. Yeah. It's pretty wild. It's pretty wild, but because far out, because they put up a bit of a scream, I think.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah,
as you would if you got your nuts cut off, I'm sure.
Yeah, I know. But yeah, they reckon it's good for the meat, yeah, because there's no testosterone or anything. So even when it comes to breeding time, like there's none of that testosterone getting pumped through them.
Yeah. So I mean, something that I've always done. I don't know why, but I've always just known to salt my meat and just salt it and let it sit for as long as I can. I can't quite remember what it actually does, but on an enzymatic level, like what it does to the enzymes is pretty much it fills the cells with more water. Like it wouldn't fill it with more water, but it makes them more plump, I guess is a good way to put it. Like it holds the water rather than letting the water leak out. And the best thing to do is let it salt for longer, like as long as possible. If you're going to cook a steak or if you're going to cook a piece of venison or whatever, like salt it, and ideally salt it the morning before you cook it that night. Like that would be the best way to do it. If not the day before, that would be great. What other things do you think people could do to start with, like in regards to, I guess, adding flavor with seasonings? Like,
Okay, yeah.
I think salt and pepper is awesome. Like if I had to choose two things I had to keep for the rest of my life, it'd be salt and pepper, because I think you can make anything taste incredible.
Guaranteed, yeah.
But what other things do you think people should be doing, and how long do you think they should be seasoning for before they actually give it a shot?
So what I do, like, so say for example, I want to have like venison the night before, I'll pull it out of the freezer, I'll put it in the sink and let it thaw out like overnight, and then I'll put it back in the fridge in the morning.
Yep.
And then ideally you want to be, I think like so I put like I use good olive oil.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll just like drizzle that, and then I'll add like, I don't know, salt, pepper, oregano, whatever sort of vibe you want. You can do Mexican, you can do, I don't know, whatever vibe you want. You can do anything really, like. And then as long as you got like your salt and pepper as your base, and then you can add whatever else really, as long as like whatever your palate wants, you know. And then you mix it through, and then so you make sure the oil like is completely like covers everything, you know, like you massage it through with your hands.
Mm-hmm.
And then you just sit it in the bowl, and then I think at least like for 4 hours or 5 hours. And sometimes I'll leave it in the fridge over like 2 or 3 days even. Like I know it might sound a bit wild, but I'll just like pull it out as I need it. You know what I mean? As long as it's like, as long as it's been sitting in the oil and all the spices, it's pretty safe. Like, and I'll just eat it like that. You know?
Yeah, definitely do. That sounds incredible.
So at least I think at least 4 hours, like overnight is ideal. Overnight is ideal.
And with the cooking process, like maybe let's talk a little bit about cooking it and the different ways we can cook it, but then also the resting process of the meat, especially if you're frying it. Like it's a very important part that people possibly miss. So let's talk about potentially maybe some of the best ways. Like I think slow cooking, frying, like I mean even doing things like a slow roast over a fire or something that makes anything. I think any game over fire actually tastes incredible. Like it adds a good flavor to it. But what other methods have you maybe used outside of those?
Okay, well, so so with the steaks, with just like any like venison steak or kangaroo steak or whatever it is really, I'll heat my cast iron skillet.
Mm-hmm.
I'll heat that till it's like super hot, you know.
Yeah.
And then I'll throw in like, I don't know, maybe 2 or 3 tablespoons of butter, because I mean butter's not like the health. It's pretty like it's not the healthiest thing, but
man, get the grass-fed stuff. It's good.
Grass-fed, it is good. Yeah, exactly.
Is good.
Yeah, pasture-raised butter is good. Yeah, great. And then you got and the venison as well. It's pretty lean. Like all game's pretty lean, so it doesn't really matter. You know, like if you're cooking with a bit of like pasture-raised butter.
Yeah.
And so you get that super hot, and then you just I'll just throw my steaks in. So one side, and then until like you see a bit of blood, flip it to the other side. And then I'll just like keep an eye on it, you know. As long as you don't want to overcook it, you do not want to overcook like the venison or any game, you know, because it's that lean. And then I'll take it out of the pan, put it on a serving board, and then I'll cut off a few pieces of foil, and I'll cover it in foil and let it rest for like 8 minutes.
Yeah.
I think the most important part is when you cut the steaks, they've got to be against the grain. You know what I mean? Like if you're deboning a leg, it's not even that tricky. You can go on YouTube and work it out. It's pretty easy. Like I use my hands a lot, and I'll just like sort of like pull apart each muscle group. You know?
Yeah.
And then once you got all that, then you want to cut against the grain of the meat. You don't want to cut like long ways. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then it's honestly, I have never had I've never had a tough piece of venison ever.
Why do you think, like, what's the difference between cutting it lengthways compared to against the grain or across the grain?
I think like I don't know the scientific terminology, but cutting it long ways, I think it makes it like there's more a chance for the meat to be stringy. You know what I mean?
Yeah, okay, that
So
makes complete sense.
when you're cutting those like muscle groups, like only like, I don't know, 15 mil or like 20 mil apart, there's no chance for the meat to be stringy. You know what I mean? Like, because you're cutting it
Yeah, well,
horizontally.
when you look at protein in regards to like a cellular level, it's pretty much like tubes laid next, like side by side. So that makes complete sense. As like one tube would be a stringy piece of meat, whereas if you cut them across, that makes complete sense.
Yeah, so then it's pretty much guaranteed. As long as you don't overcook it, you're like safe. You're pretty sweet. That's the steaks. Like for me, like people say back straps like their favorite. Like I like using the steaks out of a back leg, and then I'll cut the animal in half.
Which chunk of back leg will you use for steaks? Any?
Or any.
Yeah, cool.
Any, like the whole, like every muscle. Like, I'm not gonna lie to you, I don't know the exact muscle names. Like I know the rump and then
top side and bits and pieces. Yeah.
But like I use them all for steaks.
Yeah.
And people say, like, if you have access to like a car when you're shooting, I think 100% you're better off bringing the animal back, and completely using the whole animal, not just cutting the back straps out.
Oh, definitely.
If it's a young deer as well, especially if it's a young one, or like not like a old smelly stag and that, like I think it's 100% worth it. Cutting I use a butcher's saw and I cut the animal in half. So then I have like all my cutlets, you know.
Yeah.
I've got like sort of like the T-bone equivalent to like a T-bone, and then all my cutlets. So then you can, I think the cutlets are awesome.
Yeah.
Like back straps also cool, but I'd rather be eating like a cutlet.
Yeah, definitely.
And then what else? So then the shoulders, to be honest, that's what I use like for slow cooking, the shoulder and the neck.
Do you debone it on the spot when you're hunting? Like when you're breaking the carcass down, do you debone the shoulder straight away, or you keep it on the shoulder?
No, I keep it on the shoulder.
Yeah.
I'll remove the shank but I'll do that at home. I'll remove everything at home. But so I'll put the shanks in one bag from the animal, and then the other part, the rest of the shoulder, I'll just like pretty much cut it like in threes with a saw. It's a little bit annoying, but I cut it in threes, and then just so I can fit it in my slow cooker.
Yeah, that's what I was about to say. I took home some goat legs and I kept them whole, like the front legs, and they just didn't fit in my slow cooker. So every time I cook them, I have to like defrost the meat a little bit, peel it back, and then saw the leg in half.
It's a bit annoying, but the goat's awesome.
Yeah,
goat's awesome
it's
as well.
delicious, dude.
Yeah, I think like because there's a little bit more fat in goat, and it's got a little more of a lamb vibe, you know. So it's when you're slow cooking it, I feel like it's much easier to get it to like melting, like to melt than like a venison leg, for example, you know.
Yeah.
What else? So I've got the shanks. So I slow cook the shanks.
How about straight roasts?
To be honest, roast I haven't done many roasts. I've done maybe like, I don't know, 5 or 6. But if I was to, when I did do the roasts, actually no, I lie. The last hunting trip, right? This was pretty interesting. I put half a venison in the oven.
Okay.
So it was a young one.
A little fallow.
A young fallow. My dad shot it like probably a few months before, and we had it in the fridge. And I'm like, I'm going to take it down to hunting, and I cut it in half, and I cooked that one night for dinner for everyone. So what I did, we had the wood fire oven firing, and we didn't have a thermometer though. But if I was to have like a actual oven, I would have cooked it for like, I reckon, 4 to 5 hours at like 140.
Yeah,
or 130.
Real low.
Yeah, very low. And I would have, and the base of my tray had like chicken stock. So I was actually made like a chicken stock from scratch down there, and I put chicken stock. I used like white fruity wine. And then onion, garlic, potatoes, and butter. So I used like unsalted butter.
Yep.
And I cut it up into pieces, and I just like sort of covered the outside of the venison with butter just so it doesn't dry out.
So are you constantly applying that, or just before?
No, just once.
Yeah.
Just once, and then halfway through, when I checked it, I also I used like a big spoon, and I put the liquids back on the animal, on the thing, and then I also like wrapped it with not completely wrapped it, but every like I don't know, I put a few strips of like homemade bacon over it, and that tasted awesome. Like I rubbed it up with like I used my Greek spice mix to like sort of like rub it up with like lemon and that, and then I added the bacon and the butter, and that tasted great. Like the potatoes at the bottom ended up like soaking in all the like juices from the venison and that, and it honestly turned out like I was surprised because I was sort of guessing because we had no thermometer or anything. I just kept checked on it a few times, and then the last like 2 hours I just cranked it up, put some coals in the oven and closed it up.
Yeah.
And it turned out sweet.
So let's talk about that. When you don't have a thermometer, what are you looking for on a roast?
Oh, I don't know. Like, to be honest, as long as you have enough liquid, and have like a fire going, just like with coals, and then so leave it in there. So you start the oven on in the morning, right?
Yeah.
So start warming up the wood fire oven, and then until I don't know, at least for like say 3 hours, and then you pull all the charcoal out, and you want the oven to be firing, not like a slow burn.
Yeah.
And then you'll see like inside of the oven should turn white, a bit white.
Okay.
And then you pull all the coals out, then throw the tray in, and then close it up. And then you're not supposed to open it up. They say like you close it up with mud. Like traditionally, even back at home, like they use it like it's a traditional dish where they put it in and then they'll close it up with mud, and then they won't open it for 6 hours.
Yeah. Wow.
But I don't know, like I'm still like practicing, so I get a bit nervous because it's like if it doesn't turn out like it's a bit scary.
Yeah.
But
Definitely.
Worst case, as long as you don't burn it, you don't want to burn it. Worst case, you just like pull out the tray, put in like new coals, put them out, and then just put the tray back in and close it up again. And then it's a bit of a process. But if you're with an oven, you're pretty safe with an oven. I think at like 130 or 140 for like 5 hours. But especially if it's venison, like if it was lamb or something, like the lamb has fat, but venison, you want it to be enough liquid so it doesn't like dry out or anything.
And so your method, are you putting liquid like touching the meat, or are you putting it on a roasting tray above and having the liquid underneath?
You can do both, but I put it like touching the meat.
Yeah, that's the way I've always done it, and I think it works better.
Yeah, I think it's all right. Yeah, like if you're cooking like I think like an animal that's fatty, I would want it to be on a tray.
Yeah.
So it doesn't become like
engorged in fat,
oily. You don't want that sauce to be like really like oily. Like it doesn't really. I don't know. It's a bit heavy.
Yeah.
But if you're doing like venison, I think you're pretty safe to be having it sitting in the water, sitting in all the liquid. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah. So yeah, what else? Oh yeah, the way I'll do like my slow cook like shanks. I'll first coat them with flour. I'll coat them with flour. Then I'll like sear them. If you have like if you're cooking out bush, I'll put them over the barbecue, like over coals,
Yeah.
So like
just
cook
browning
them over
it
coals.
off.
Yeah. Cook so put them all on the like sear them on the coals, and then you pretty much just throw in oil in your pot, throw in the veggies, and then like cook off all your veggies, and then just put in your meat. And then if you're going to use chicken stock or whatever, like beef stock or whatever you got, and then just close it up, and that's it. Like you put onions and garlic and whatever really veggies you want. You can get creative, and then as long as you're slow cooking and it's just like on this like just bubbling, you want the liquid to just be bubbling.
Yeah.
And as long as it doesn't stick, so as long as you got enough juice there, like 4 hours later, it's pretty much guaranteed for that meat to be like melted.
Oh my God. Sorry about dropping that. Yeah, dude, that's awesome. And so how about making, like you talked about making your own broth before from the venison bones.
Yeah.
Is that something that you would use, say, for instance, you'd made some broth already? Would you use that same broth on venison then?
100%, yeah. I used that broth the other day to make like a massaman rooster curry from scratch.
Delicious. Yeah.
That was awesome. I felt like it was a little bit risky. I was a bit scared because I was like doing the massaman's Thai and the venison was like Vietnamese, like the pho was Vietnamese.
Yeah.
So it was like I was scared to mix the two, but it was great. Like he added so much depth to the flavor. Like I cooked it for like 12 hours or something, maybe more, like even I might cook it like for one day, then I turn it back on in the morning.
Yeah. That's incredible.
And it becomes super dark. Like it's very, very dark and like very tasty. Yeah, I put like star anise, coriander, pepper, cinnamon, and bay leaf, and then the bones I'll roast them in the oven before I put them in.
You roast the bones?
Yes, I roast all the veggies. I roast all the veggies before I put them in the stock. So I roast the bones.
Yeah.
That have been cut in half. And I also roast onion, garlic, ginger.
What's that do to the bone? Does it just kind of loosen the marrow up a little bit more?
I think it activates it a little bit. Like it's gives it a bit more of a I don't know. It's like a darker flavor. I don't know. It's a bit more. There's a bit more depth to the flavor. It's interesting. If you have a barbecue, I'd put like if you got like a fire going, you put those bones straight over the fire. I put all the veggies over the fire, so it becomes a little bit like of a charcoal vibe. You know? Yeah,
definitely.
It's interesting. Yeah, I think that's one of my favorite like things to do, like those venison stocks. Dude, or any animal really, doesn't matter.
Yeah.
But yeah, and also when you pull them out of the oven, the bone, because the bones are cut in half, I pull out the marrow with like a knife or a fork or whatever.
Yeah.
And I throw that as well back in the broth.
Yeah, definitely. That's where a lot of the nutrients are in that.
Yeah, bloody hell, it's awesome. Yeah, and then I'll put it in a jug and put it in the fridge. So then I'll just drink it like I have it for breakfast or like, I don't know, at night or whatever.
And what are you doing with your vegetables and stuff afterwards?
The vegetables, to be honest, I'll
just discard them.
Yeah, discard it. Just get rid of them.
Well, I mean, realistically, what happens is you actually boil all the nutrients out, essentially, of everything in it. So you're best just to get rid of them, like give it to your dog, if anything. But you're not really going to have much.
I give it to our dog. We got chicken, so I just put them in the chicken thing. Yeah, but so that's about it. Yeah, so like the veggies are like ginger, garlic, and onion. That's pretty much it for that pho.
Okay.
Specifically, yeah, and then I put also the spices in the oven and the meat in the oven.
Yeah.
So everything's in the oven before it goes in the broth, and then I just like simmer it for like, I don't know, at least between 6 to like, I've done like 18 hours before.
Wow.
It's long, but if you could just put it on the stove every time you walk past, like if you're gonna go to bed, turn it off, and in the morning you turn it on again. You know?
Yeah, definitely. How about using an actual slow cooker compared to a slow pan, like a slow pot cook?
I think slow cooking, having a slow cooker is 100% easy, convenient. If you're working in that, like having a slow cooker is perfect because you turn it on in the morning and then you come back and you got dinner. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But if you got the pot, I think it's a bit more like, I don't know, it requires a little bit more work. You're checking on it more. You want to make sure it doesn't stick. You know?
Yeah.
Like, but yeah. So I don't know. Like I think slow cooking, having a slow cooker is 100% more convenient.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But
if you want to like put a little bit more like, if for me, if I want to put a little bit more love into the dish,
you just spend more time.
I'll cook with it. Yeah, I'll cook it over the pot. You know, so because you have to interact more, sort of thing.
Yeah, definitely.
But with a slow cooker, it's just like you put all the, as long as you got enough, as long as you got enough water in that, like enough liquid, then you just put it on low and that's it.
Okay,
forget about it.
So when it comes to, let's say we've got a gamey chunk of meat, like we've got a stag or a rutting goat or something that like a billy goat, something like that has a little bit more game flavor to it. What are you going to do to make sure that you're getting rid of that flavor before you cook that beef start rather than just leaving it?
Okay, well, I think if you can 100% bleed the animal. So if you are within, like, if you can get to the animal within 5 minutes or 4 minutes, or like within 5 minutes, I think 100% bleed the animal. That makes a big difference, I think.
And what's your best method for that? You just stringing it up by its legs, cutting its throat?
Yeah, or you can either like, you can stick a knife. So you either cut its throat.
Yeah.
It's a little bit confronting, but I guess like, you either cut its throat, or you can stick like a sharp knife in its chest cavity towards its heart. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But from the underneath, like from the brisket or from the front side?
From the brisket, like from the brisket, just underneath its throat in the brisket, there's like a gap there. You stick like a sharp knife in there, and then that should also bleed it out.
Yeah.
You could, like, if you got an old billy, like you cut its balls off as well, like straight away. So cut its balls off, bleed it, cut its balls off, and then you're pretty good. And then after that, I think it's more to do with the cooking.
Mm-hmm.
So I cook like an old smelly stag or billy, like just like straight on the barbecue.
No.
Especially if they're rutting, you know, like if it's not a rutting stag, I think you're sweet. But if it's rutting, like it's a little bit wild, you know. Like you want to like I done my last stag I shot. I done like a bunny chow,
Mm-hmm.
which is like a South African stew.
Okay.
Yeah, it's like Durban. It's from Durban in South Africa. So yeah, it's an Indian like masala sort of thing.
Okay.
But yeah, it's just a lot of spice. So you're using a lot of garlic, a lot of different spices like cumin and paprika and coriander and cloves and cinnamon. So it's a lot of there's a lot of spice going into it, and you cook it really slow, and you've got potato and that, and you're eating it with like I had it with like yogurt,
Yep.
Greek yogurt. So you're eating like, and the way you serve it is in like an empty loaf of bread. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
So
definitely.
you pull all the bread, you pull all the like the middle part of the bread out, and then you use the bread as like a bowl.
Yes, it's kind of like cob loaf.
Yeah, and then like you have like Greek yogurt, the meat, and then like the bread together. So it's sort of like, yeah, that helps a lot. You wanna put time into like slow cooking. Yeah, I think curries. I think curries. You're sweet.
That's pretty much what I've done. Like with the red deer that I had, both the stags that I got, they were actually rutting stags, and
Yeah.
I've just slow cooked most of them a lot of the year until recently when I got a mincer, and that's been a complete game changer. But
Yeah.
slow cooking it has been made a world of difference to the taste and the texture and everything of the meat.
Yeah,
So
it is. And I don't know if have you cooked it at curries, or what did you really do?
yeah, curries. I've done a bit of like juniper berry and red wine style.
Yeah, nice.
Then like a tomato based one. Like I've kind of played with it a fair bit, and it's worked really well, kind of in all methods. So I haven't made a bad one yet, apart from when I just tried to just do some steaks. Like it was a bit gamey, and I was like, oh, yeah.
To be rough, yeah, but yeah, no, that's yeah. I think you can't go wrong, especially if because you're investing a bit of time in it, you know, like when you're slow cooking. So I think you're pretty safe, like especially once you add all the veggies, and if you use onion and garlic and all that, like because the onion caramelizes and gives it a bit of like a sweet flavor, and then the garlic also is like that's also strong, so that masks that game, and then you use all those spices, and then if you have like a side, like a little like either Greek yogurt or I don't know, it could be like a homemade chili sauce or like a chutney or something. It's perfect, you know.
Yeah. When it comes to like meat, do you think there's bests? Like something I often do is just do a Google search, like best herbs for venison or best herbs for hare, and then it plays to that flavor. But really, I think it comes down to the thing that you're cooking instead, right? Like you could just say, "Hey, I'm going to make a curry," and it comes down to the spices you're going to use for the curry, rather than what the best maybe herbs are for that animal.
Yeah, no, you're right. I think there's no best. There's no best because, like, if you look at venison, for me, it's like you're substituting it for beef. Now you can do like beef, like massaman beef. You can do like there's like a million versions of beef. You know what I mean? Like you can cook beef in so many ways. You can do bolognese. You can do because they use beef mince for bolognese. You could do I don't know, like
Raggy,
what else is
you
like
could do steaks, you could do roasts.
Steaks, roasts, slow cooked, everything like smoked. So I think anything that you can use beef for,
you can use venison for.
You can use venison for.
Yeah. How about something that's a little bit more fidgety? And this is something we talked about before we started, was hare and how much you enjoyed it. And I actually played around with hare a little bit, and I've done two different types. And one thing I absolutely loved was I boned out the whole hare and then I crumbed all of it, and it was absolutely freaking incredible. Like
That's
I didn't think...
interesting. That's so interesting. Did you when you crumbed it? What did you like deep fried or something, or what did you do?
So I shallow fried it, and what I did was I double dipped it. So I made little chunks out of the hare, and then I dipped it through egg, dipped it into corn flour with some herbs. And then I dipped it back through the egg and dipped it through some gluten-free breadcrumbs, and then I shallow fried it there, and it was just it tastes so good. I think depending on how long I cooked it. So there was a few pieces that I cooked a little bit too long, and it was a little bit tough. And then a few parts that just tasted so good and so tender. It was so good. Yeah, I would happily have that again and share that with everyone.
Awesome. Yeah. I think it's very, very underrated. Hare is like because we've been hunting hares for years, like in like Sydney and that. Like my dad, that was all they hunted. They used to love shooting, like all field. So hare, rabbit, duck, quail.
Yeah.
Right. And like we used to hunt them, and then the farmers used to be like, you know, why are you eating that shit for? It's fucking just rubbish, you know. And then we're like, and then one farmer came over once and we cooked it for him. Like my dad cooked. My dad actually like that's his like finesse, you know. Like that's what he's like good at, the cooking hare. And then so the farmer tried it and freaked out. Like he loved it. Like he said, honestly, honestly, I think it's like up there with one of my favorite dishes.
Wow.
It's like like we like so you cut it up into its pieces. Like we don't no bones in.
Yeah.
All bones are in, like shoulders, cut the back legs, and then cut up the back strap just into like horizontally, you know, like not long ways, the other way, just into pieces.
If you don't have a bone saw, are you just using a
no,
big
just with like a cleaver.
Yeah,
just a cleaver. Yeah, cleaver. And then the main part of the dish is the onions, like a lot of onions.
Okay.
Like when I mean a lot, like
overdo it.
Overdo it, yeah.
Like
and
six or seven to one hair or more.
Yeah, like probably for one hair, like a big bowl of onions.
Okay.
Yeah, and you either use like really small onions that will melt, that will like fall apart, or you use big onions and cut them up like not rings but long
Quarters.
ways.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Because they're gonna end up falling apart.
Yeah.
Right? And then it's just I think I have the recipe on my website. Pretty sure. So yeah, and then I just use it's just like paprika. You use like cumin, and then you use red wine vinegar. Probably like half a cup of red wine, maybe even a glass.
Okay.
That's like you want to taste the red wine vinegar and bay leaves.
Yeah.
So like say 4 or 5 bay leaves, and then you use what is it? So bay leaves, vinegar, paprika, cumin, and tomatoes. So I use a few fresh tomatoes, but then you use like say a tin or two of tin tomatoes as well, like those diced ones.
Okay.
And then you just slow cook that, and then we cook it for like either put it in the oven really low, like for like 5 hours, or slow cook it for like 5 hours on the pot.
Okay.
Yeah, really slow, and then that'll fall apart. Especially like my favorite piece is the shoulder of the hair.
Yeah.
And that like literally like you could like grab the bone and just shake the meat off. That's how like
Wow.
That's how tender it becomes. Yeah, it's interesting. Yeah, hair is an interesting one. Like I feel like it's not it's underrated to the max.
Yeah, I was surprised with how much meat it had on it too. Like
it's like it's big. They're a big animal.
Yeah, they're huge. Like compared to a rabbit, they're almost like triple the size. Like some of them are just gigantic. But yeah,
like,
I really enjoyed
honestly,
the hair.
Yeah, like back at home, honestly, man, it's like I think they sell them for like €150.
Wow.
A hair. Yeah, like it's like really it's their prize animal, like when they hunt, because Cyprus is only a small island and it's all field hunting, and there's a lot of shooters there, so it's like it's been shot out and that, but like people still hunt, but it's just like they've got like 3 or 4 dogs and it's all like Brittany Spaniels and stuff like that, and it's all just for hair.
Yeah,
literally.
wow.
Yeah, it's crazy.
That's cool style of hunting. Like that's different, but it's cool.
It's very different. Yeah, very different. Yeah, they hunt partridge and it's partridge and hare and like pigeon and stuff like that.
Yeah, that's super cool.
Very, very different. Yeah, very different. Like, but they love it. It's massive over there. So when we came here, like my dad, they've been eating it like we've always like appreciated eating hare.
When it comes to like making meat more tender, would bashing it do anything? You know how you get those hammers and you can kind of knock it. Is that just for schnitzeling, or is that for actually?
Yeah, no, for steak. I think it helps if you're cooking steaks. But honestly, man, like I've never done it. I've never done it to any venison. Like that's the only thing I really cut steaks out of is like venison. The goat, I don't really do any goat steaks. I normally cook goat like curry and stuff like that. Yeah. But all the venison that I've cooked has been like tender enough not to be like it's not tender. You know what I mean? Like say that he's like cuff. Never has it been cuff. It's just I think it's how it's cooked and how it's cut. You know, like if you can hang the meat as well, if you can hang it.
So that's my next question.
Yeah. Wow, if you can hang your meat.
Aging meat, why would you do it?
I think what happens, I don't know exactly, but I'm pretty sure it's like I don't know if it's bacteria or what, good bacteria, but it breaks down the meat inside and it sort of hardens and becomes a bit more like I feel like the meat becomes a bit more dry, a bit stiff. So when you're cooking it, I don't know. I think it's like not as like I think it almost also shrinks a little bit the animal because it's like I don't know exactly. I think it's just like I'm pretty sure like the muscles are getting broken down. I don't know if I'm right though. I don't know if I'm right, but I think the muscles groups are being broken down.
Well, it makes sense. It's kind of like starting to rot the meat, essentially, like it's decaying to some extent,
exactly,
but you don't want to let it go too far.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I think if you were hang it in a cool room, it's like between like 2 to 3 degrees or something. But like if you're going hunting in winter, you can just hang it under a tree and just wrap it in like those like game bags,
Yeah.
And then you sweet.
How long are you hanging your meat for? Like, what's the longest you've hung for?
I've hung it longest. This is at a butcher though. Like I mean, not a butcher, but I had like a friend that's got a cool room. Yeah, I hung it for like probably like 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it didn't like because they were goats and they weren't in the best condition, so they didn't look the best because they were like the meat became super dark and dry, but sweet, tasted sweet.
And then did you get rid of the outer layer, or do you keep that?
Yeah, you do get rid of that. You get rid of the outer layer, yeah. But if you're hanging it only for like 1 week, I don't get rid of the outer layer.
Yeah, okay.
Like. There's no need unless you like you don't need to like I tasted like I didn't shoot this deer but my mate shot a Sember stag not a stag sorry I think it was like a spiker or something anyway and it was like he had it hanging for 3 weeks but with the skin on so the skin has to be on. Like that's what I done. That's why I made the mistake last time when I hung the goats. The skin wasn't on, and it's sort of like it's easier to the meat dries out faster.
Yeah.
So like, if especially on an animal that's lean, like you leave the skin on. So the skin was left on, and then after 3 weeks, he got some out when we were at his house, and he cooked some over the fire, and that probably was one of the best tasting deer I've tried.
Okay.
Yeah, it was awesome. But that was 3 weeks of hanging. 3 weeks.
That's incredible.
Yeah, but he did cut the outer layer. He did cut the outer layer because I think it gets so they end up getting it like a mold. Like you know how you see drier age becomes like a bit black.
Yes.
So you cut that off. If it becomes black and then you cut that off and then in that meat inside is like prime. I think that's what I don't have and I can't wait. I can't wait to have my own cool room.
Yeah, definitely.
It's also easy to butcher as well. It's easier to butcher your meat. If you get it out of the cool room, it's more stiff. You can cut it in half, and it's not like sort of flopping around. Do you know what I mean?
How about the actual like cutting the skin off the fur? Is that pretty hard, or is it pretty easy once it's cool? Or once it's hung?
Oh no, it's fine. Yeah, it's sweet. It's sweet. Just like it's like not like especially with venison. I find venison not too hard to skin. Goats are a little bit like because there's so much. So they got so much fur in that. It's so easy to get all the hairs on the meat. It's so annoying. Yeah. But venison's not too bad. Like it's pretty tight. The skin's pretty tight onto the animal, so it's not that much of a struggle.
Best tip I got for that when you've got hair on the meat is just getting a chucks cloth and wetting it and just squeezing the water out. So it's just wipe it off, and it works pretty well. Like you do have to give it some, but it works well compared to using like the back of a knife where you're just trying to scratch it off or something. It definitely works well.
You're right. Yeah, that's cool.
I'm cautious or like mindful of your time, dude. Do you have like another 10 minutes or so?
Yeah. I'm sweet, man.
Sick.
Yeah, I'm all good. Yeah.
Good stuff. So, I mean, something that I've got recently is a mincer, and it's been such a game changer. Like I don't know, like I enjoy cooking, and it's just made me like re-spark the Kindle. I just want to keep going. I want to keep trying all these different bits and pieces. And I was looking at all these different mincers, and one that I was looking at was like I think it was about $600 mincer / sausage maker. And I was like, fuck, do I really want to spend that much money? I don't know. And it was a tray spade, I think they're called, is like the top brand that people have kind of recommended. And what I decided to do instead was actually I was looking around and I looked for commercial mincers because I wanted something that would grind through meat reasonably fast. So I found this commercial mincer on eBay. It was like one of the first ones that came up, and it can do 150 kilos per hour. And I was like, fuck, I may as well just check it out. Like, why not? Let's just see how it goes. I think it was like $250 compared to the $600.
Yeah.
And it's incredible, dude. Like it came with the
Nice.
sausage filler as well,
Yeah.
and it just works so well. It just grinds through the meat so quickly. Like 150 kilos an hour is ridiculous.
It's handy. Nah, it's so handy because if you have a mincer that doesn't have any if it's got no balls, you will be. It's the worst thing ever because the muscle gets when you got like a string of pieces that get stuck and then you're just forever trying to fix it. It's fucked.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's cool. The 150 kilos an hour is a lot.
Yeah, it's huge, and so it's pretty chunky. Like I think it's 20-kilo machine. It's ridiculous, but it's been so good. Like I minced up some meat. First day I minced up just some red deer and just cooked it just like a Mexican, almost just like a it was like a Mexican meets a bolognese, and it's just
nice.
freaking delicious. But I didn't cut any fat in at all. And someone said to me, "Dude, you should probably cut some fat in." But I actually, after eating it, I don't think you need to for a straight.
You don't need to.
Yeah.
No, you don't need to. I think that's a myth.
Yeah.
As long as you don't. As long as you don't overcook it, and if you got no juices, it'll be dry. But if you're cooking a bolognese and that, you don't need to at all. Like I've substituted like mince. You can do so much with it. So much. Yeah. I mean, you're not. To be honest, like I'd rather eat a steak.
Yeah.
But like the versatility of mince is unbelievable.
Yeah. Well, I mean, so the other thing I did just the other day, which we were talking about, was the burger patties, and I literally all I did was put the meat through the mincer and grab it as it came out. So it was literally just a ball of meat as it came through and cooked it like that. So you could have just cooked it as a steak, but I wanted to try it out just to see how it went. And I salted it and peppered it for probably a good hour and a half, and then put it on the pan. And dude, it was to die for. Like it was so good. I think it must do something to the protein. Like I don't know, it must definitely activate something in the enzymes. I don't know the way that it actually works, but it tasted a little bit better, I reckon.
Yeah, it's nice. It's not like those spices that I got, like they're perfect. That's what I like use that's what they're perfect for, like mince. Like the Mexican one, like it's mad. Like you can use it for tacos and everything. It's I feel like it's just an easier way. It's an easy way of cooking as well. Very convenient. You don't have to you're just like throwing it in the pan. You know what I mean? You're not like hustling trying to make it like tender. You're just throwing it in the pan and it's quick. Especially if you're busy and working and you don't have time to cook. I think mince is essential in the freezer.
Yeah, definitely. It is just such an easy way to do it. The other thing I did was I actually made my own sausages, which I was so stoked to do.
Oh, nice.
It was a long process. So I had beef. Sorry, not beef. I had venison and goat, and then I had offcuts of beef fat and some lamb fat, like as a mix of both.
Okay, that's interesting, yeah.
And it worked out so well, man. Like, they taste super delicious. And I can't quite remember. I'm actually making a video for it now. And I put a post up on my Instagram page where I've actually said the recipe in it. I'm just going to find it real quick because it's just here. So I just did herbs. I didn't want to put any filler into it. I just wanted to make it like I'm a celiac, so I don't eat any gluten at all. So I wanted to make sure that there was no filler in it. I looked at putting some rice in, but I also just wanted it to be a protein sausage. I didn't want it to be full of carbs. So what I did was 3.5 kilos of red deer. I did 1.5 kilos of goat and 2.5 kilos of the beef/lamb fat, and it had a bit of meat on it, not heaps. Then I did 2 tablespoons of salt, 1 tablespoon of pepper, 10 bay leaves, 1.5 tablespoons of sage, 1.5 tablespoons of oregano, and 1 tablespoon of coriander. And I put it in the NutriBullet and just blend it all up into like this powder.
That sounds awesome, man.
Yeah, dude, they're incredible. Like they are so tasty.
And you know what? And you've used that meant like you've used red deer, goat, beef fat, and what else did you use?
And a little bit of lamb fat, yeah.
Yeah, wow, that's so cool. I've never heard of that before. To be honest, it's pretty interesting. Like using all those 4 types of meat.
Yeah, I was kind of just like, oh, stuff. I may as well try it. Like I went to my local butcher and asked for some fat, and they said, look, we've only got 1 kilo of beef. I think it was 1.5 kilos of beef fat, sorry, and we can give you a little bit extra lamb fat if you want. I'm like, oh, may as well.
Yeah, it's sweet.
Yeah, they make all their sausages from scratch down there, and they said, yeah, dude, it'll taste fine. Like, you can't really taste the difference between the 2 fats. And in the sausages, yeah, they're great. Like, you literally can't taste much difference between them. But it's getting to that stage now where I want to start to share my recipes with people. Like, I want to start to bring people over and cook them wild game because I'm feeling more confident with how it's tasting. Cool, and I actually gave we had some friends who looked after us. So I didn't announce it yet, but we had our little baby girl last week, Madeline.
Yeah,
she's incredible. Thank you.
Yeah.
And we had some friends come and help us out with our dog during that time. So I gave them some sausages to say thanks. And they cooked them up and they said, dude, they taste like you've been doing this for years. Like The way that
that's
they
awesome.
worked out, which is
How nice is that feeling? Eh? That's cool. Like,
yeah, it's cool,
yeah,
and other people are enjoying it too, right?
yeah. It's like you're not converting them, but like when people understand that it tastes awesome, like because of you, like it's directly it's because of you. If you didn't give them those sausages, they would never have tried Red D or whatever. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, I mean, here's the cool part that she's a vegetarian, and so I
Yeah.
said,
Well,
look, she understands. So she comes from a property. And she understands that I go hunting and that I forage my own meat and stuff like that. And she's really for that. She's like, I would eat it if I did it that way, but I'm not. So I'm not going to support like factory farming. So this is my way of doing it. And so I said, hey, would you eat it if I was to make you some? And she's like, yeah. And so I was so stoked that she ate it and she said it was good. I was like, yes, that's winning hearts.
That's a big thing. That's massive. That's like the pinnacle.
Yeah.
You got a vegetarian trying your like game sausage. Yeah, that's cool. It's interesting how vegetarians and vegans understand why we hunt, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like a different, like it's, I mean, we're eating meat and that's against all their like beliefs, but it's like, because of the way we harvest them and we're not supporting like the farms and the cruelty of animals like leading to the death. I think it's amazing how they understand that, and I take my hat off to them. Yeah.
Yeah, I think you have to obviously pick the ones you're doing it with, but definitely they do, which is
cool.
Yeah,
there's some that. There's a lot that actually no, sorry. There's a lot that don't. But there are some that do, and it's nice. It's like it's refreshing to know that they understand. You know.
Definitely. So, cutting fat into sausages, like people talk about doing 50%. People talk about doing 20%. Like,
I think it depends on the sausage you're making. You know, like it depends. Like it's like having different like making a curry and then making like a. I don't know, like a steak, for example. I think it's just like different. It depends on the sausage. You know, like we make this sausage that's like super dry, so we put like no fat, like I don't know, 10%.
Yeah.
But because it's supposed to have that dry texture, but then I make another one that's like traditional Siberian one that's 50.
Yeah. Wow.
You know, so it just depends. I think 30%, 40%. If you're making just like a normal sausage just to throw on the barbecue, it's sweet. It's good.
That's pretty much what I went with, 30%, and it worked out well. Like it's tasty. It worked good.
Yeah. I think 50 is a bit extreme, but like the type of sausage, that's what you're meant to do. Like it's like because you hang it and you smoke it and that, it's a bit like I don't know what to call it. If it's like not salami, it's not like a salami, but it's like there's a big process behind it. So you're supposed to have that fat in it. Otherwise, like it's a pork sausage, so it becomes a bit dry.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
And so I use the intestines, like the natural skins. And I think I think it's definitely the best way to do it.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, the other one's a bit shit.
I think they fall apart a little bit easier, right?
Yeah. And I think it's a bit like it's a processed. You know, you want the intestines. The medium size. I asked for the medium size. I don't know if there's a number for them or anything, but yeah, I just asked for like a medium size, like intestine, and then that's it.
I was stoked. Like it cost me $12 to get the skins for all my sausages.
Just from
Natural Butcher. Yeah, I was pumped on that. I thought it was going to be a lot more expensive, but they're super cheap, super doable.
And you know what as well, sausages are easy. Like as well, you know, like you could if you want to give it to someone, like if you want to not convert someone, but if you want someone to try wild game and not like freak out and they can cook it themselves, you just give them sausages.
Yeah, you can't really stuff it up, right? You don't
can't
give
really
them a
stuff it up. Nah. Yeah, because like I've got a few people messaging me like saying, "Oh, you know, I love some venison or whatever," but I know if I was just give them like a leg, they won't know what to do with it, and they'll probably end up cooking it not right, and they'll hate it.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. You're better off giving them like some mince or sausage or something. You know, like sausages are nice.
Yeah, you want them to come back for it, and I guess that's why I'd like to more so invite people around and cook for them. Rather than, like you said, just give them something, because it obviously it becomes that flavoursome piece rather than it just being I cooked it on the barbecue and it didn't taste good, or hey, I cooked it in the pan.
Exactly. And it's a nice conversation at the table, you know, because everyone, like when someone tries something new, there's always like, oh, how's it going to taste? And then they're worried and everyone's sort of having a laugh. It's a nice vibe when like when you got people trying like new things, you know, inside your house. It's cool. I think it's a cool vibe.
Yeah, definitely. My auntie said, like, I'll never eat that food. Like, unless it comes to the stages where we have to literally kill them just to live, then I'm never going to eat that. And so I made up a massaman curry and gave her some without her knowing. And she's like,
that's the best way.
she's like, this beef is incredible. I'm like, that's not beef. Like that's
Yeah,
deer.
that's
And she's
yeah.
like, you asshole, you tricked me. I'm like, but how good is it, right? You just
Yeah,
said it. And she's
yeah.
like, yeah, true. Like, I actually really enjoy that.
That's the only way. That's the only way. People like are so stubborn. Like, I think they just become stubborn.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, I don't get it. Or like, and what annoys me as well is like the people that say that if they had to hunt the animal and that, and they're eating meat. They're still eating meat.
Yes, yeah.
Doesn't make any sense
No, definitely not.
at all. You know, like they're like, I don't know. I don't want to get into it because it gives me the shits.
It dives down the rabbit hole, doesn't it?
Far out, like you know, so they're happy to like be living in the dark, you know, be completely unconscious,
Yeah.
and then they're making, and then yeah, I just don't understand. It doesn't make any sense.
No, it definitely doesn't. It's
Yeah.
more so if they're getting angry at you for doing what you're doing, and then they're still off.
exactly.
Yeah, that's when it's
exactly.
really frustrating.
Mm.
I mean,
yeah.
that's an hour, dude, and I think that's been really good content.
That's what it is, yeah.
I think what we might wrap with is like, is there anything that we didn't talk about that we maybe should have?
Knives, maybe knife sharpening, or
Yeah, cool, dude.
Yeah.
Let's go for it.
well, I don't know. I reckon, when I was younger, I used to always like I don't know, spend like money on like fancy knives and that.
Mm-hmm.
Like, well, not even fancy, just like knives that are like expensive and you want to walk, like, you know, the ones that they look good and that. But
Yeah.
I think you're better off having like one that's like
Really good.
one that's really good, like for what you want to have on your belt when you're hunting and that, like out bush. And then you're better off just going to like a butcher supply and just getting like boning knives and that.
Man, that's actually one that I got recently. I paid 25 or 35
$25
bucks for it,
exactly.
and it's
that's
so
what it is.
good. Like I use it more
They're
than
best.
anything else.
Yeah, they're the best. Like I would not go. Oh, there's no point having like anything else. I think like you have like like a boning knife and like a skinning knife, and that's it. Really, that's it. Like you want to have one. Yeah, that's it. Like a boning knife, skinning knife, and like a veggie prep knife.
Yeah,
but that's that's not meat regard. I got like a Japanese that's like a for food prep.
Yeah.
And then a boning and a skinning, and then just one that's on my belt.
Do you like gut hooks or not on a knife?
I do use them, but not really. Like I if you got like a sharp boning knife, I just end up. It doesn't matter. Nah, that like not really.
Yeah, one of the best tips I ever got was from a butcher. He said, make sure once you've cut the first hole, cut your skin from underneath the skin. Don't go above it because you'll blunt your knife really quick on the fur.
Underneath, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, so you put your fingers inside its stomach and just slowly come down.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
So I've used my gut hook for that previously, where I've just made a little insertion, then put my gut hook in and just literally run it. So you make the insertions just on the back ankles pretty much, and you run it just like a Y straight down all the way to the chest on both sides, and that works really well if you've got a sharp gut hook.
Yeah, wow, that's cool. I've never done it from that high. I normally just, if I was to use a gut hook, I would just do it from like the sort of groin area, you know what I mean?
Yeah, no, it works a treat. I was really blown away with how easy it was, and probably saved a lot of time. And I think you could probably stuff it up and pop the gut on the way through if you weren't careful.
Yeah, you don't want to do that. You don't want to.
No.
I've popped it a few times, but yeah, no. Yeah, so that's pretty much it. I think I have my sharpening stone. I bought the sharpening stone from the butcher supply as well, which I think cost me like I don't know, maybe $80 or something.
Yeah.
This Japanese one, there's like a coarse side, and then you got the finer side. And then,
is it a water stone? Japanese water.
Water stone. Yeah, it's just it's just easy to sharpen. You know, like even if you like sort of like when you're practicing sharpening, if you ruin it, it's not a big thing. But if you got like a $400 like knife and you're like sharpening it on a stone and that, like you can ruin the blade. Yeah, you won't get upset now.
Yeah.
You just practice. It's easier. And then you also have like a steel, you know, like the sharpening steels. Yeah, they're handy. They're handy to have like hanging off your belt or whatever, you know.
So I've gone crazy literally over the last year, getting all different sharpening devices. So I've got a stone, I've got a steel, and just recently I acquired myself one of the workshop, the bench, it's like a little grinder essentially.
How is it?
Belt. It's good, man. Like I really enjoyed. I did it on all of my knives, all my kitchen knives, all of my my field knives, and I expected it to be punching hairs, and it was not punching hairs at the end. It cuts incredibly well. Like the kitchen knives are awesome,
That's cool.
Once again, it wasn't punching hairs. And I think maybe that was I don't know if it was an expectation that I shouldn't have had, but it's incredibly sharp. It's just not doing that. Someone said to me that you need to strop the knives after you've sharpened it with the leather to make it punch hairs, but I don't know. I feel like it should do it anyway.
Like I still haven't mastered it yet either. Like I'm still learning. Like, but I watched the butcher do it, and he whipped. So he whipped out. So his knife wasn't punching hairs.
Yep.
And then he's like, so he tested it out on his thing, and it wasn't doing it. And then he grabbed this old steel, like no joke, looked like 20 years old, like proper old school.
Yeah.
And gave it a few, like, you know how they sharpen it, still up and down, like pretty fast. Like I don't know, maybe like probably like 20 strokes.
Yeah.
And then he was cutting hairs, but the steel was worn.
Yeah. Okay.
Worn, like
really old.
Very, very smooth. Like it was like nothing. And he said, "You don't need it. You don't need leather." I asked him, like, "Do you need leather?" He's like, "You don't need leather. You don't need leather." But what he was sharpening on was that smooth. It was might as well be a nothing. You know.
That's when you see people like wind down their windows and do it on the glass of their window.
Wow.
Their car window. Yeah, that works really well as well. Apparently.
Wow, I've never seen that. Yeah, but that's my goal really. Like I like for me, like having like knives and sharpening and all that is like when I go a bit nuts with it. I love it.
Yeah.
But I'm still not there yet. I'm still not punching head. I get a bit cut, but maybe slowly I work it out.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's just like time with it all, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Dude, this has been awesome. I really enjoyed that chat. Thank you.
Yeah,
I think the listeners are going to get a heap out of it. So once again, they can follow you on Instagram at The Bald Chef AU, and your website is thebaldchefau.com, and you've got a heap of awesome recipes up there. I've just been kind of perusing it while we've been talking, and it's awesome. Like there's some really delicious looking things in there.
I've got a few more coming. I just need to put my head down and get them up there.
Content takes a while, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. So you got to be so consistent, and you got to be like with it. Otherwise, like it won't happen, you know.
Yeah,
but,
that's awesome. Is there anywhere else you want people to follow along?
No, I've got a Facebook page as well after the Bold Chef AU, but I think my website and Instagram, that's fine, I think.
Perfect, man. Well, thank you very much.
Thanks, matey. I appreciate it.
Yeah, dude, that was cool, and we'll see how the listeners enjoy it, and maybe have you on for round two. Let's talk a little bit more intricate.
Sweet as, man. I'm keen as.
That's it, guys. That's a wrap. Thank you so much for joining us this week on Becoming a Bowhunter. You guys can follow along with the journey at becomingabowhunter.podcast on Instagram and Facebook. You can also head across to the YouTube channel, which is Becoming a Bowhunter. So guys, follow along. We've got a whole heap of different recipe videos up there, as well as different snippets from along the way, along the journey so far. If you guys do enjoy the show, please pass it around. If you got something out of this show, then I'm sure another bow hunter, another friend of yours would get a hell of a lot out of it as well. So please share the love, share the podcast, and thank you so much for tuning in.